Hello and welcome everyone to our launch today, our pre-sale of our K through 5 elementary content focusing on character development and social emotional learning, officially called Purposeful People. So grateful all of you are here live to be a part of this launch. We have been working for a very long time to put this together. So if you get a chance, all the messages coming through are private. So if you have any questions along the way, go ahead and drop them into the chat there, and we will save some time at the end to make sure to answer any questions you have. And along the way, I always love to see and hear where people are coming from. So if you have a moment, go ahead and drop where you're watching from and sort of your role in the building. It's cool to see if we have counselors or district folks or teachers from all around the country. So go ahead and drop where you're coming from today and any questions you have along the way, and we'll get back to them at the end. My name is Houston Kraft. I'm one of the co-founders of Character Strong. And over the past almost 10 years, I've had a chance to work with 600 schools from all over the country and world. And together with my co-founder, John, and our whole Character Strong team, we've been working for the past many years to provide as many low burden, high impact, practical tools for educators like yourself to thoughtfully put a focus on relationships, weave social emotional learning and character development into the daily fabric of your schools, to focus on the whole child, which not only the research, but I think our intuition tells us that that work is more important than ever, to create young people who are not only good test takers and competent at math and science, but also compassionate and filled with character. And in a generation that is craving more purpose than ever, a generation that I think is fueled by purpose. That is why we decided to launch our K through 5 component and call it Purposeful People. We have so many people coming in from all over the place. This is so exciting. I want to share a little bit about how Purposeful People has been created and shaped so far. We'll walk through the curriculum sample, which I'm excited to share with you. And then we'll get to some questions at the end. So first things first, let me share with you a link so that in case you haven't had a chance to download it yet, this will be the best way to go about it. Our blog post from today, and if you haven't subscribed to the blog yet, make sure you check that out. I just put it into the chat box there. It includes an overview of some of the things that I'll talk about today, but the main thing I want to draw your attention to is if you scroll down just a little bit past that first big image, there's a button that says click here to download the Courage sample. So if you're interested in following along as I walk through the sample, that will be the sample I'm sort of step-by-step navigating. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and I'll give folks a moment to download it. As a reminder, those of you who are here today live and those who watch the replay, the full replay to the very end, are eligible for a bunch of prizes, including free curriculum, free registrations to one of our 1 or 2 day educator trainings, as well as some Make Kindness Normal gear and poster downloads. We're giving away a bunch of cool things today as a thank you for showing up. So if you're able to download that on the blog post there, characterstrong.com/blog, it's the very first one, and there's a link that says download the full Courage sample. Purposeful People. We decided very intentionally to call our elementary component something different than Character Strong. And that's because we've learned through experience in the trenches and through the wisdom of other educators in the space that sometimes if you have content that spans K through 12, even if the content itself is different, when students get to middle school or high school, and if that curriculum looks or smells or sounds at all like the stuff that they did in elementary school, their natural reaction is, oh, we've already done this. Or the natural subconscious reaction is, this is elementary, this is young, and now I'm grown up, I'm fully developed or fully cooked. And what we've learned is that we want to create content that does span that whole range, because students need it K through 12, but we wanted to be really intentional about differentiating the two very thoughtfully, so that a student could go K through 12, still be getting the same general message, but be getting it through a lot of different inputs. So we called it Purposeful People for that reason, to differentiate from our secondary curriculum. And we also thought about Purposeful People because we want to create a world more full with kindness, more full with perseverance, more full with courage and creativity and cooperation and responsibility. And the last piece that we share a lot in our trainings is that the research would tell us that the highest indicator of success in young people today is not GPA or IQ or SAT. Angela Duckworth would share through her research that the highest indicator of success today is the non-cognitive, non-academic skill of resilience, grit, right? The ability to leverage failure towards learning. And in all of her research of studying gritty people, studying resilient individuals, she found that the most common denominator of resilience was that the people who were gritty also had the clearest purpose. So they knew why they were doing what they were doing, and that purpose fueled them through challenging times. You ask the average kid why they go to school today, and they'll say, because I have to, or to get good grades, or in the secondary level to get into a good college. And Angela Duckworth would say those things are good goals, but good goals don't motivate students through tough adversity. So how do we help young people develop purpose in their life? Well, purpose almost always comes from the relationships that are around us every day. And how do we engage with those relationships in a thoughtful way? Well, those are the skills that we're trying to teach through this toolkit. So let's dig in. This content was created and shaped not only by the Character Strong team, but by a whole squad of incredible educators from around the country with a variety of different backgrounds and perspectives. So anyone from our friend Barbara Gruner, who is a 30-plus year veteran educator and counselor, to our friend Kate, who runs a blog called Educate and Inspire. She's a play therapist and a teacher. To Heather on our team, who has taught at the elementary level for many years. To our friend Danny in Washington, D.C., who teaches at a public charter school with a focus on creating civic engagement. And it's a bilingual school, so their goal is to create champions and engaged citizens in the world. So we have this whole team informing this process, as well as educators from around the country, which I'll share more about in a moment. So let's dig in. Again, if you're just joining us, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them into the private chat channel there. And if not, just feel free to introduce yourself. So if you've had a chance to download the sample, this is where it starts. It shares just right up front that this is a K-5 character and SEL toolkit by Character Strong. And this particular sample is focused on our trait of courage. Our idea is to create a library of a bunch of different traits that you as an individual building can pull from based on your needs. So this is designed to supplement some of the great work that you're already doing. It's also a robust option on its own. But I know many schools, many elementary campuses are already doing some work around SEL or character. So this is designed to come in and support that work in really thoughtful, effective, low burden ways. So one of the traits that we wanted to focus on is courage. And as you start to make your way through the PDF, you'll notice that it's broken up into a couple of distinct sections. So we know, and at Character Strong, we believe that culture change is a holistic endeavor, meaning it's not just one curriculum or one individual's job to change our culture or to teach even character or SEL, that this work needs to be approached by all touch points in a building. So that looks like not only the classroom, but it also looks like developing our staff, developing conversations among families, and developing tools and strategies on the playground. So the content is broken up into those 4 distinct sections. And when it does go live for folks, it'll be on an online digital platform where you're able to quickly sort through the traits and sort through which category or section you want to search in. Specifically, the classroom section is by far our most content heavy. And in order to make that more easy to navigate, we've broken up the content in our classroom section into the Character Strong signature serve model. Now, our serve model is something that we train on in our 1 and 2 day educator trainings. And it's a framework to be more thoughtful in how we as educators build relationships. And we focus on research-backed strategies and tools, sort of habits to develop as staff to focus on bringing SEL and character not just into a program or a period or an advisory, but into everything that we do in our pedagogy, in our interactions, in our relationships. So we took that same model and we put it in here for the classroom as a way to break up content. So you'll notice as we go, we'll go through pieces where we start intentionally. So what are some simple, thoughtful ways to begin a month, to begin a week, to begin each day? We'll give you tools to engage relationally, to build thoughtful, simple relationships through activities or play between students. Respond with empathy, which is knowing that our students sometimes need more energy. Sometimes they need a moment to breathe or calm down or a brain break. So how do we respond with empathy to our students? By reading the classroom and a bunch of low burden strategies to do that. Values practiced consistently are experiential learning or activity-based learning, where there's an activity portion and then a discussion portion where you're actually able to like see or feel or experience whatever that trait is. And then the last part is exit intentionally, which is, again, thoughtful ways to close out a month or a week or each day. So let's dive in, and we will start with the classroom component. Just so you know, as you have your own PDF to view there, the table of contents itself is clickable. So you can click on each of those things to quickly navigate within the PDF. And we'll start here with tools and resources for the classroom. So in a serve model, S stands for start intentionally. And we say it's thoughtful ways to begin a month, week, or day related to that month's character trait. One of the core beliefs at Character Strong is that if we don't have shared vision, we'll never find shared success. So speaking a common language is really critical to being able to get better at anything. I always say that clarity drives competence. So with each one of our character traits, we'll start the month by clearly offering a group definition. First of all, a little bit of processing, right, to access student schema around what they think this thing is, and then offer that definition. So for courage, we say that courage is to choose what is good, right, and kind, even when it's hard or scary. And these images are available not only for projection in your classroom or your school, but also printable as posters that you could put around your campus. And they're each hand designed. We have an incredible designer who's helping with this process. Her name's Miranda out of Denver. So she hand letters these, and I think they're quite lovely. Here's another example of what respect might look like. Respect is seeing good in people and treating them with care. So we start the month by defining that character trait. This sample is related to courage. Once we get into starting the week, we thought it would be really fun and inspiring to create some unique and original illustrations that bring to life or elicit conversations around that character trait to start each week. So every week would begin by projecting or printing out an image related to that character trait. So let's say we're focusing on courage. Here's one of my favorite illustrations. And again, no words, but some guiding questions like, why does this image make you think about courage? What would be a way to change the image to make it more courageous personally for you? So the image is designed to have conversations around courage to start each week, thinking through that lens creatively of that character trait. Some other examples of what that might look like. Here is an image from our Perseverance month, and I'll share more about the different character and SEL traits that we're going to be focusing on to begin with in our toolkit. But this is an image to elicit conversations around perseverance. And this one is one of my brand new favorites, an illustrator named Abby. And this one is a conversation around empathy, right? Empathy sometimes looks like listening, putting yourself on people's levels so you can better understand them. And I love this elephant down on his knees, listening to someone wildly different sized, but yet still has value in what they have to say. So seeking to understand, even when that person, or in this case, that animal, is very different than you. Another one of my favorites, this is from the Respect month, talking about respect through a bunch of different angles. We talk about respecting yourself and respecting others, respecting our school. This image in particular is designed to elicit a conversation about respecting nature, respecting the environment or the world that we live in. So you'll notice that some of the images use animals as characters and some utilize people as characters as well. And this is one of my favorite, a person holding up an image of a potential different reality where we honored nature alongside industry. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is we're also getting these images created in black and white. So you could use them as a coloring book or a coloring sheet, as a brain break or a different sort of activity in the context of your class. So every one of these images will also come in black and white. Finally, for starting intentionally, if we're going to start the month intentionally and the week intentionally, we should also start each day intentionally. So the vision for these images are quotes from varied backgrounds and perspectives and people talking about that character trait. And each one of these quotes will, again, sort of elicit conversation around how that thing relates to something like courage. Now, for the purpose of this sample, we're just focusing on grades K through 2. So that's the way that the content's going to be broken up. Is there will be content that is K through 2 oriented, and there'll be content that is 3 through 5 oriented. So the sample just includes K through 2. Each week will feature one quote for 4 days. So if you picture Monday is starting the week intentionally with an image that inspires conversation. And for the next 4 days of that week, you'll use this quote to have conversations around something like courage. So for example, one of my favorite quotes here, be brave, take risks, nothing can substitute experience. And so the days would be designed where day 1, let's say it's Tuesday of the week, we would make sure people are speaking the same vocabulary. So defining risk. Day 2, Wednesday, would be a biography about who that person is and how they relate to that character trait. So this shares a little bit about how Paolo has lived practiced a courageous life by traveling the world, becoming a famous writer, and starting his own charity that supports children and the elderly. Day 3, which in this case would be Thursday, there are some processing questions. For example, for this one, what are risks that are very dangerous? What about risks that are scary but not physically dangerous? Risks that might make you nervous but are not actually dangerous can be positive risks. So engaging in a conversation around how courage is related to risks and what are healthy risks and actual real life dangerous risks. And then day 4, which would be Friday, would be sort of a next step, right? Or the call to action or a reflection question that drives you into the next sort of positive interaction in your life. So what are some positive risks that could actually help you learn something or try something new? What is one positive risk that you will take today? So we have images like this for every character trait for each grade level times 5. So each character trait has a total of 10. K through 2 has 5, and 3 through 5 has 5, and each of them come equipped with the vocabulary, the biographies, and those processing questions. This one, of course, is from Courage. Here's another one from Courage, Nelson Mandela. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. So sharing a little bit about those vocabulary words, about Nelson Mandela's biography, and again, those processing questions. We have Oprah. You get in life what you have the courage to ask for. Frida, at the end of the day, we can endure much more than we think we can. And here's a Buddhist teaching: having a soft heart in a cruel world is courage, not weakness. So I love just those as a couple of examples of our K through 2 quotes that focus on courage, simple ways to start each day by putting a focus on that character trait through some really wise people and a bunch of varied perspectives. And then not just showing the quote one time, but really taking time to dig into what that quote means, both through a vocabulary lens, a biography lens, and then some self-reflection questions as well. And here's a few other examples. Maya Angelou, one of my favorite all-time quotes: I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget the way you made them feel. This one comes from our respect trait. And now moving into engage relationally. Engage relationally, the idea behind this section or this portion of the content is activities that get students connecting, playing, and engaging in really simple ways. And we've broken it up into 10 to 20 minute activities and 1 to 10 minute activities. So here's some examples of those 10 to 20 minute activities, and I'll let you explore those yourself in the PDF. But some of them are really simple, like ask students to write a note or draw a picture to thank someone they consider courageous or brave. To taking a well-known game and translating it into something that focuses on something like courage. So instead of Duck, Duck, Goose, we play Courage, Courage, Fear with a couple of simple tweaks to it to make it a more courageous activity. So these are 10 to 20 minute activities. We also have 1 to 10 minute activities. These are something really quick if you can sense people need a moment to move, but they're also just like low burden fun activities, again, changing some well-known things like London Bridge into Courage Bridge, or Courageous Sharing Charades, a few different options there on simple activities, 1 to 10 minutes to help people in your classroom play intentionally and engage relationally. The R in our serve model is respond with empathy. So the tools in this part of the toolkit are about either getting students refocused or re-energized to meet their social, emotional, and physical needs. So we have some mindfulness practices and mindful moments. We know that's a critical ingredient to a more and more anxious world. So we have a couple of different mindful mantras or exercises or activities to bring people back to their breath or to calm them down a little bit, or to give them sort of touch points they can come back to that focus around things like courage. We have brain breaks. Not only do we have videos that we've sourced from all over the internet that are fun to get up and move and dance to. So in the PDF, you can click on them and they'll take you to the video, and they're sort of thematically related to courage. But we also have even more activity-based brain breaks. For example, one of my favorite things is the courageous countdown. Have students choose a number as a group between 3 and 10. Whatever number gets chosen, choose a movement for each number that the students have to do that number of times. For example, 7 shoulder wiggles, 6 jumping jacks, 5 high fives to yourself, 4 smiles, 3 wiggles, 2 thumbs up, 1 hop. So a quick fun energizer that could be a brain break in the classroom. And then the last part of the respond with empathy portion of our content is scenarios. Knowing that empathy in general is a huge conversation in our country and our world, we wanted to create scenarios where courage could be used. So simple prompts that you could use to talk about with your class that, again, bring them back to the conversation around courage. V, as I mentioned earlier, values practiced consistently, experiential learning designed to put abstract values into real life action. So here's one of my favorite simple activities. Stand up if snakes scare you, dark rooms scare you, trying new foods is scary to you. So some questions that start to build up just a little bit in challenge with some processing questions around it. So an activity that actually has you experience courage because you're standing up and admitting that you're fearful of some things, which sometimes is the first step in being courageous. And then having a conversation like, what determines if you're scared of a certain thing or not? And is courage a one-size-fits-all thing? For some of us, being courageous looks like speaking up. For some of us, being courageous looks like not speaking up. And that eliciting that conversation through activity-based learning is the purpose of values practiced consistently. Here's another activity called Courage Walk. And each trait K through 2 and 3 through 5 has a variety of those for values practiced consistently. And finally, for our classroom model, exiting intentionally. So if we're going to start intentionally, we should exit intentionally as well. Exiting the month, talking about what we learned about courage, having that sort of contrast between the beginning of the month and the definition that we shared and talked about and discussed. And now the end of the month, how does your definition change? How has it changed? Why do you identify more with the definition at the end of the month? Or maybe you identify with it less and you have your own opinions now because you've had these experiences and conversations. And lots of opportunities for the educators themselves to make it personal by sharing, this is what I learned, or this is one moment that I saw that was really inspiring to me this month about courage. A couple of examples on how to exit the week. At the end of each week in a thoughtful way. So again, maybe it's you sharing vulnerably, share a story with your students about a time when you wish you had more courage. What have you learned since then? And what is one way you can show up with more courage next time? So each educator can approach that question differently. And I think young people can really benefit from all of us being vulnerable and sharing how these traits live or relate in our own life. And then some simple strategies to exit each day. So we recommend sort of closing circles at the end of each day and a bunch of different ways to close those circles out. One of them might be to teach sort of a chant or a daily mantra you come back to, like fear, fear, out of my way, we choose courage today. Or you could have a couple of fill in the blank exercises. So students share, I showed courage today when blank, or one thing I learned about courage today was blank. And finally, to exit intentionally, we've also compiled books that focus on courage. So each one of those in your PDF links out to a place to purchase that book, or even see it sometimes on YouTube, some read alouds. But we thought this was a really cool way to have educators have this library of resources they could go to either exit each day or month or week by using a book that focuses on courage. So that's the classroom component of our Purposeful People toolkit. To answer a couple questions that I saw coming in, the content is sorted K through 2 and 3 through 5. So it's really designed to be that sort of bucket of resources that you can go and pull from. And the schools that we've talked to who have started getting their feet wet with the content, they sort of have a choose your own adventure model where they go in and they say, okay, we want to make sure that this piece is consistent over time. So the kindergarten classrooms are doing this component and the first grade classrooms are doing this component, because we know that the content that we've created there doesn't necessarily all exist each year every time. So it's designed to be more of a library of resources than it is a scope and sequence for you to follow. So we wanted to make it really flexible and really easy to sort through so that you as a school could decide how it fits best into what you're already doing. The other cool part about it living online is that we will continue to add resources to it. So each year we will continue to go back and add quotes and images that inspire those conversations so that the content is always fresh and new. And to answer one more question that I just saw coming in, will the focus traits change year to year? Our goal is to continue to build a repository of resources. We're going to start with 10 traits, which I'll share in a little while. And the idea would be that we continue to add to those traits so that a school who is doing this program over here could say, oh, cool, we want to focus on these 6 things. And a school that might be doing something else over here is like, actually, we want to focus on these 5 things, or we want one for every month of the school year. So it's going to be designed really as something that you can pull from to create the content based on the needs of your school, as opposed to prescribing it for you. So one of our favorite questions at Character Strong is, who needs character development? And the answer is everyone. In fact, I think more than ever, we need to role model what it looks like to practice our own character development as adults in a building. I think that's critical for the success of implementation of any program like this, is for young people to see the adults actually doing the work first before we ask them to do it themselves. So one of the big focuses that we have both in our secondary content and now in our K-5 content is making sure that we have tools for educators to focus on character development themselves. This is our staff portion, and we call them Purposeful Pursuits. If you know us from our secondary work, they are much like character dares, but they look a little bit different. So Purposeful Pursuits are practical ways for staff in a building to put their own, we say that personal development is professional development in the education world. So we wanted to take something like courage and offer opportunities for staff to engage on a weekly basis with developing courage in their own lives. So this first Purposeful Pursuit is called Thanking Them for Their Courage. This week, think about an individual or a group of people who model courage in their jobs. Maybe it's the firefighters, maybe it's your child's preschool teacher. Call that person or those people on the telephone, or stop by and thank them in person for their courage. Better yet, do this in front of your students. Set up a phone call or a video call with one of these people and role model what it looks like to make that courageous call. One of my favorite challenges, not only the first exercise of showing kindness through courage by thanking these people, but the courage to do it in front of your students and role model what it looks like. And you'll notice at the bottom of each of these Purposeful Pursuits is a couple of different icons. The bricks represent difficulty. So this one's a little bit harder. The clock represents time. This one doesn't take too much time. And the hearts represent the number of people involved. This one could be one heart, or it could be a group of hearts, knowing that you could do it in front of your class. A few other examples, and I'll let you read these yourself inside the PDF, but affirming the example, stepping out in courage, and one of the more challenging ones, courageous conversations. So one for every week of that month, for staff to be intentionally focused on developing their own character alongside the students that we're developing as well. We know, I'm sure as you do, that the family component of our work is critical. The work that we can do in the classroom can so often be undone very quickly at home. And I think that parents are desperate for tools and resources to implement these conversations in their own lives. But my empathy statement is, how many of you, one of our favorite sort of quotes from Dr. Clay Cook, who we work with out of University of Minnesota, he says, how many of you know someone that an adult in your life that can do math and science, but doesn't know how to regulate their emotions very well? And I think about that thought all the time, because I think sometimes the natural paradigm of education is that teaching these sort of things is the parent's job. But if we look to a couple statistics, I think that we illuminate the problem quickly, which number one is that the average family spends less than 30 minutes a day together. Number two, most adults in my life, even my parents, who are incredible parents, weren't necessarily taught about emotional regulation or what empathy actually is or what it looks like, or the details around perseverance and why it's related to resilience and purpose in our life. So we can't expect families to educate things that they haven't been educated on themselves. So we wanted to create really low burden family resources as well. Here's sort of what they look like. They'll be more in a 2-page thing that you can send home, sort of front and back, that you can send home to families. First, a little explanation about the character trait we're focusing on that month. Number 2, conversation starters to get things to help ease those conversations at home related to something like courage. A couple of sort of guiding or leading questions you could ask as a family around the dinner table or before bed that illuminate courage and what it looks like for you as the parent or the family person in the home, or to your son or your daughter, or whoever it is you live with at home. We also take some of those same books that we shared in the classroom component, and we give them as resources for families as well. And then we have some like individual personal development. It's called For Your Reading. This one's an article about 9 ways to cultivate courage in kids by a parenting expert, our friend, Dr. Michelle Borba. So a simple resource that parents could go to have some continuing education in their own life. And then the last part of it is an activity, a low burden activity you could do at home that puts a consistent focus on courage. So this one, K through 2. And again, this content is divided K through 2 and 3 through 5 as well. So the letters we send home to families are grade level specific or grade category specific. And this activity is encourage your children to document their experience this month as they conquer fears and gain courage. This could be something as simple as a journal where they write something like this. I used to be afraid of blank until I blank. Now I show courage by blank. And as the family member, you're celebrating their baby steps and milestones as they work to become more courageous. Not only do we have some content and sort of like curriculum for families to dig into at home, but we believe that everyone needs character development. So in the same way that we have purposeful challenges for staff, we've also developed purposeful challenges for families. So this one is called Neighborhood Portraits. Who are people in your neighborhood? Work together to draw a family portrait. Then step out in courage and find a neighbor that you don't know yet. Introduce yourselves and have your child introduce everyone using the family picture you drew together. One of my favorite challenges we put together so far. I think it's really courageous. I think it's really adorable. And I'm looking forward to families being able to experience things like this together because they've been given vehicles to put it into action. So again, just like staff, we have purposeful challenges, purposeful pursuits for every week of that character traits month. And finally, last but I know certainly not least, we have content for the playground. This first one is inspired by an organization called Paths for Peace, and it's a peace labyrinth. This was originally shown to me by Barbara Gruner down in Friendswood, Texas. She built one out on her playground, like had it painted, and it's amazing. And they use it to have remedial conversations, to have sort of like this peer mediation, but it's done by students because they've been taught the method of how to use this. So they're having really tough conversations because they have a tool to engage in those conversations. So this is one of the ideas that you could create on your playground, whether it's actually putting it on the blacktop or whether it's creating it on a big sort of tarp or canvas that you can roll out in a classroom for a rainy day recess, or take it out to the gym or to the playground. Peace Labyrinth is one of my favorite concepts in this month's content. And then there's, again, more activities that you could do on the playground. This one is called Courage on the Playground, and the last one is a trust walk. So things that could be facilitated by educators or by whoever's monitoring recess that day to invite students in to do these activities, again, just to create more avenues, more touch points to have these conversations. That is the overview of just one part of 1 month of our content. So you can tell that we've been working very hard to make sure that it is robust and it has a ton of options to weave it into the daily fabric of what you do and support the work that you're already doing or looking to do to more effectively teach SEL and character development. I'm going to go ahead and answer a few questions, but before we get to the end, because I know it's come up a few times, let me rattle off just a couple of them. One of the things that we're going to be working to do is to have the family letters home be both in English and Spanish. So able to be a bilingual approach, especially for our family component. We are going to, let me share actually which things we're focusing on to begin with. Our content is going to be initially focused on 10 traits: perseverance, gratitude, empathy, honesty, and here's the whole list all at once. We were inspired to focus on these traits for a few different reasons. Knowing some of the strong SEL programs already out there, we wanted to create tools that we knew aligned to some of that content or curriculum. So that if you're already doing something in your building, great, this is designed to support that thing. If you're not doing something, again, lots of robust tools on its own, which means we took these 10 ideas, and this was inspired by our friend Randy Peterson, who polled parents across a big district. And these were some of the 10 things that rose to the top that families and educators voted on and said, these are the things that we want our students to be about today. This is how we create more purposeful people in the world. So these are going to be the 10 that we focus on initially. If you want to find this list again, we will share the slides at the end of this webinar, but you'll also find it in that PDF packet. It's on page 3 of the sample, and it's in that paragraph that's off to the side. You'll see it sort of tucked in there, but it says to start, we're going to focus on these 10 traits, and it lists them off there. So if you ever want to find those again, we'll both have it in these slides, in the webinar replay, as well as in that Courage sample that we've shared already. And to answer what I know is a ongoing question, I've seen it answered a few times in the chat. We are not doing individual user license. We think that sometimes it gets a little bit clunky and expensive for schools. So we're offering Purposeful People for $4.99 a year, and that's a full school site license. The reason why we're doing it on an annual basis is because it all is going to be digital. And like I said, we're going to continue to update these resources with more quotes, with more images, and eventually more traits based on what we hear from you all is a demand. If you are missing a trait that you really want to see, please let us know, and we can add it to our list of ongoing resources that we want to provide. So our goal for you is to continue to make this content engaging and relevant and full enough that you can pull from it at every grade level and every use case to continue to put an intentional focus on this work. The cool part about you all being here today live, and anyone who watches the full replay, we're doing a 72-hour launch pre-sale discount code. And so if you go to the ordering page, which I'll put out the offer right now, I've just put out the offer, but I'll make sure that you have an even quicker ability to get to it. If you go to the ordering page, right here, and use that code, full pre-sale, all caps, it's 20% off the first year of Purposeful People. And I'm going to leave that up just for a second to make sure that people can write it down if you need to, or take a screenshot if that's easier. One of the things we will send everyone today as a part of being on here is this poster that says "Do Life on Purpose." It'll be an 8.5 by 11, as well as 11 by 17. Something I think is just a fun way to share just even the beginnings of this work. So we will send that to anyone who is on on today. And now we'll dig into a little bit of questions with the last few minutes that we have together. So first of all, thank you all so much for being on here. I know that was sort of a detailed walkthrough of that sample, but I hope that it clarified a little bit about our approach and why we've created some of the content that we have. I want to thank the whole team that's been working really hard, and the educators and counselors and play therapists who have informed this work, the illustrators and the designers who've helped create some of this content. I've been working on it for over a year now, and I'm really proud of what we've got so far. So I'd love to answer a few questions with the time that we have left. Some people have asked around professional development. The answer to PD is yes. We are 1 and 2 day educator trainings, which you can find on our Character Strong website. They are designed for any educator K through 12 to be more thoughtful about how we do this work. So those trainings are a great way to get a few folks from your campus educated sort of deeply on some of our philosophies and our model. In fact, those 1 and 2 day trainings are really the only place where we go in depth on our serve model in particular. So we've had a number of folks from elementary campuses over the past couple weeks at trainings in Missouri and Massachusetts and New Jersey and California and Texas and Washington. And those elementary folks have had a great time at those 1 and 2 day trainings digging into that serve model, which will inform sort of how that work plays out in the context of your class. We also, one of the people who helped create this content, Barbara Gruner, is one of our Character Strong professional development educator presenters. And she is excited and available to be at elementary campuses to do some professional development around this work. And of course, if you ever have questions about some of the implementation, you can always find us at characterstrong.com and just drop us a note. We'd be happy to help with successful implementation. There's been some questions about district-wide pricing. District-wide pricing will be a thing, and if that is something that you're interested in going district-wide, we always want to work with districts who are thinking about this as a holistic approach. So please drop us an email, contact@characterstrong.com. If you drop us an email, we will respond with what that pricing model could look like, depending on how many buildings are in your district and the size of those buildings and all of those things. So some of that information, some of the pricing information in general will be in our follow-up emails, but if you're interested in going district-wide, please send us a note or respond to the email that you'll get from us so you can make sure to get accurate pricing info for that. Looking for some more questions coming in, and my team is being very helpful putting them in front of me. Let's see here. All right. As I'm just sort of sifting through to see if there's any other emails, and team, go ahead, and if you see something, a question that I haven't answered yet, please drop it in front of me. Thank you for showing up, and I wanted to share, we have a couple of winners, and we'll send out a few more winners after this live webinar, but we wanted to congratulate Shauna Schmierer for free training registration to one of our educator trainings coming up. You'll get information directly from us about that. And a huge congratulations to Karen Barker, who is winning a 1-year license to our full elementary toolkit just for showing up today. We'll send out a few more prizes over the next 24 to 48 hours. So this is a thank you for being here live today or watching the full replay. We already have Karen and Shauna who've won a couple prizes, and we will release some more as we go. A few more questions with the time we have left. Do you need to do the training to implement, or can it be implemented without training? Great question. We believe always that this work is strengthened. Strengthened by like the implementation is always going to be strengthened through professional development. That being said, it is designed to be really a bucket of resources that anyone can go in and pull from. So as we continue to roll things out, you'll be given lots of simple tools to go and navigate this content easily, and it can be implemented in any building without training. That being said, we always know that the most effective schools at implementing this work do both the content and the buy-in piece. So buy-in to us sometimes looks like sending some champions to one of our trainings or bringing us for in-building PE. So not required, but recommended. Some questions coming in. The materials K2 and 3.5, does that mean a student will repeat the same information images for 3 years in a row? One of our goals is to continue to build out some of those images and quotes. We also know that not every school is going to use that style or that content every grade level. So part of that is going to be part of that, like how you choose to implement it. And we also believe in being reminded more than taught. So even if some people are coming back to, let's say, an image that they had seen the year before, how I interpret that image as a kindergartner versus a first grader or second grader is going to be very different. So lots of different ways to approach that, knowing that we're going to continue to add more, knowing that not every grade is going to do it at every school, and knowing that we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. What else do we have? The quotes and some of the questions seem to be at a higher level than K through 2. The 3 through 5 lessons even more challenging, or do you use similar quotes? Yeah, the 3 through 5 are similar in terms of quotes. The people that were writing some of the questions do come from the K through 12 world. If you notice anything in the sample that feels totally beyond what your grade level specific world feels like, feel free to reach out. We'd love that feedback. That being said, it's also designed in a way that you get to sort of customize those questions based on what you know your students need. So if the vocab words don't resonate with the needs or the abilities of your students, we recommend pulling which ones you think are going to be most relevant. If the questions don't seem relevant to that age level, we recommend creating some of your own. And we're always open to being shared into those things because we'd love to bring them into our work. But the content was created by folks at those grade levels. So our goal was to make them as grade specific as possible, but also as flexible as possible. And the way that it's going to work in the actual function of implementation is that the digital curriculum is all online. You'll be able to just click to see the image. So the image will pop up, and then you get to share on a day-to-day basis how you want to use that quote or that image. So they won't see the vocab and the bio and the questions that are built in the way that you see it in the PDF. Your students will only see the image, and you share what you want to share based on your needs of the classroom. Someone asked, will there be a link to replay that we can, so you can rewatch this? Absolutely. We will put together a follow-up link that you can share with anyone you know who might be interested in this, as well as a link to the slides. And another question, we're looking to use this as an after-school program component. How much time should we allow for a lesson? The lessons, every one of our lessons has a time attached to it. Every one of our activities has time attached to it. So we have 10 to 20 minute activities and 1 to 10 minute activities that are in the Engage Relationally section. Our values practiced consistently lessons are a much wider range because they're very experiential learning based. And then all the other content is really designed to be like pull and play, right? So a mindful moment might only take 2 minutes. A brain break might take 3 minutes of dancing. And so that's where you get to go in and choose from those things, knowing that it's well curated and well designed to be focused towards that character trait. Some other questions, just sort of adapting to different groups. Absolutely. Some people are asking, are there there was a Buddhist image, and I work at a Christian school. Does this function with students who are language delayed or have no language? I think part of why we made this a toolkit is to be more of a repository of resources than anything else. So depending on what you need is what you use. It's not laid out in a way that says you have to do this and then this and then this. It's designed to say, what do you need in a building, and what's going to strengthen your pedagogy in the classroom, what's going to strengthen your culture as a school, through the staff component, the family component on the playground. And it's a really choose your own adventure type of toolkit. That being said, there are quotes that if you don't want to show that quote that week, you can pull it right out of the content. There is a lot of imagery that you can use. So if you have students who are delayed or have no language, I think some of those illustrations are great ways, even without language, to elicit the thought or even the shared experience of helping to understand something like courage or respect better. Some other folks that have answered or asked some questions are asking about our secondary content, which we do offer. So we have lots of districts who have gone district-wide with our content, which is really exciting. Our secondary materials include an advisory curriculum, 6th to 8th grade, 100 lessons, an advisory curriculum, 9th through 12th grade, 100 lessons, and a leadership curriculum that could be used either at the middle school or high school level. So we have a lot of content at the secondary level, really full, robust scope and sequence, vertically aligned content. And we wanted to add this toolkit to the mix, knowing that there's a lot of districts who are finding great success at the secondary level, and they're saying, well, what about us? So we made this as a way to serve that K-5 component while intentionally branding it differently, so that when they get to that secondary component, there's never that complaint of this is elementary or I've already done this. I think that is all the questions that I'm able to see here for now. If I wasn't able to answer your question, I apologize. This was a rapid pace, but I'm really grateful again for everyone being here today for our official pre-sale launch of Purposeful People. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at characterstrong.com. Is where you'll find all this information, as well as contact@characterstrong.com if you want to send us a direct email. We'll be sending out a replay of this shortly today that you can share with family and friends and peers, as well as all the slides. The sample download is available on our blog. We have a podcast episode live today with Barbara Gruner, who helped write the content. If you haven't checked out the Character Strong podcast, today's was 20 minutes because it was about this, but it's normally 10 minutes or less. We call it the Character Strong commute. But grateful that you're all here today to be a part of our ongoing journey to support schools in teaching the whole child and creating more purposeful people in this world. Thank you for your work, and we hope to see you and connect with you and work with you very soon.